Hello and welcome to Rewind Reviews, and this week we are taking a look at you know what, Chris, I've just realised I didn't write the year this film came out. I think it's 2002. It's Holes. This was not a smooth intro. 2003. Holes film, 2003. It's funny, all the research I did in this, including acquiring an early draft of the script to just quickly skim through some madness. We'll come back to that.
Oh, wow.
The triv is not. There's not much to the triv, but there's one particular element of the triv that's just my favorite. Not my very favorite ever, but like really, it's top tier. It's top tier madness triv. Anyway, I'll say this: that a script so insane that they didn't even let the writer in question have another crack at it. They just fired him immediately upon reading it.
Oh, well, I look forward to hearing that, because I noticed on the, as far as I could tell from the credits, I thought the script was written by the guy who wrote the book.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how
and
that
let me tell you, Chris,
evolved.
that might be an overcorrection from the fact that someone else took a crack first and did something mad with it. So I think they were like, well, that went wrong and it went very far away. How do we go as close to the material as we can? And I think...
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the book that well, but from just how the film presents itself, you've got to assume it's pretty close, right?
It's pretty close. I don't have a big list. I looked into whether I should do a list of big differences, and I'll be honest with you, there's only one significant one, in my opinion. The rest are like, this character said this line instead of this character. Like it's tiny stuff that really I don't think so. We won't be really talking about differences because this is a very faithful adaptation. But there is one I want to talk about because I thought it was kind of an interesting reframing of something. But other than that, let's get into it. So I mean, this is your choice. For those who don't normally listen to this podcast, it's a review podcast where we look at usually movies from our youth, sometimes from our adulthood, depending on our mood, and sort of just do a check-in of like, is that still any good? And there's two hosts, myself and Chris, and each week one of us picks a film, and the week after the other one picks. So we sort of alternate. Chris chose Holes, which I had never seen before, and I also hadn't read the book. So I don't have massive history with the film, just one thing, which I will talk about in a minute. But I'm curious about your history with the film and your thinking on choosing it. And I've realised phrasing it that way makes it sound like I'm like, Chris, tell me why. Why? I didn't mean it like that way. I'm just curious as to what your.
I'm very intrigued to hear what you think about this film. But I am fairly confident that there have been. There are much more films than this. Sorry, that's really bad English. I think this isn't top of the pile for. Why did you choose this, Chris? Like, I'm fairly confident that, like, you will, like it more than some of my previous choices. So no, I didn't interpret it like that.
I'll tell you right now, there are movies I've chosen I like this more. Remember, I chose Joe's Apartment. Because there was that period in this podcast where we always tried to make the first film of the year like the worst film we could think of. So we had there's a couple of series in a row where we chose some real shit shows.
Joe's Apartment is always your go-to, but my favourite example of you choosing a film is, in terms of like negative, is Last Action Hero, because I just love that you were like, fucking hell, this is awful, and I was like, I think this is fucking brilliant. Yeah. I had a great time.
Yeah, I was really disappointed on a rewatch because I had such fun memories of it, and you loved it, and you'd never seen it before, and I'd chosen it. Chaos.
No, and you were like apologising, and I was like, don't worry about it. I had a great time.
Yeah. Funny.
I was given, I believe by my friend Roz, I was given the book, and I was told, I think you'd enjoy this.
Was this is in high school? Is this pre the film coming out?
Yeah. But yeah, this is pre the film. And I think, yes, I think it would have been around secondary school-ish. And I read it and did like it and did enjoy it. And then I remember the film coming out and just being a bit like, how are they going to do that? Mm-hmm. And then I think borrowing it or renting it, or maybe borrowing it if he had it. I should have maybe asked him. From my cousin Daniel. So the reason for the choice is when I put a call out for suggestions last series. Mm-hmm. that Daniel chose Holes. And it just came up at like enough times, like seeing him after, like, you know, in a, you got to do Holes when you're doing Holes kind of way. And it's probably one of the ones on the list that I was most like, oh yeah, I would be intrigued to go back and check that out. Because when I
just a little sort of sense check on this one. He wants us to do it because he's a big fan of the film, right? I'm not misunderstanding.
No, yes, yeah. He's a big fan of the film, and very specifically, it seems, a big fan of the soundtrack, because he's mentioned that a few times.
You know, I didn't pay too much attention to the soundtrack. I'm going to have a quick skim of what's on. I mean, I watched the film, obviously, so I heard the songs that were in the film, but I didn't really make much note of them. I'm going to glance at that while you're
I thought it was
talking.
But it was good because I sent a photo of us watching it last night, and he replied, "What a film! What a soundtrack!" So I seem to remember watching it the first time and feeling like it wasn't. I don't know if I felt it wasn't faithful, but it felt like a book adaptation film, and I remember not really thinking too much.
This is a good soundtrack.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm having a glance down this list, and I'm like, yeah, there's some crackers on here. This is a good. Like, I heard some of these songs used in the film briefly or whatever, but like not many, I don't think. That's a good soundtrack.
It's a great soundtrack. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know if I wasn't paying attention. I don't know, because that instinct of, or whether I was just being young and pretentious and like, oh, it's not as good as the book. Because I certainly didn't feel that way. Again, I don't really remember the book now, obviously. In fact, I couldn't really remember. Onions was my main memory. Like, I remembered that, you know, at the end, they found a load of onions. I knew onions was key. That was my main memory of this. But I certainly, if you'd have asked me last week, oh, what's your memory of Holes, the movie? I'd have been like, oh, is it a faithful adaptation? But now I'm like, I've not read the book in ages, but it just, like I say, just from the way the movie presents itself, flows and works, I'm like, this seems to be very faithful. And I not to bury the lead, I really enjoyed it. But I'm very intrigued as to what you thought. So you knew nothing going. What's your history? Did you know anything going in?
I knew the poster. I basically, when I was at high school, the movie was due out. And at the time, me and my friends would sometimes spend our lunches in the library, the school library, because it was just a quiet place to hang out with seats. And if you were quiet enough and you didn't cause any trouble, the librarian didn't kick you out. And it meant we could avoid other students that were less fond of us, and we weren't thrilled when we saw them coming either. So it was the library was a good little refuge. It was we didn't go in there every day, but we went in there a lot. And I remember in the build up to this film coming out, I guess the marketing department thought, well, kids that spend time in a school library are likely to have read the book, if they're bookish kids. It's good thinking. And they therefore sent marketing materials to the library. So it's like posters, postcards, A4, I don't know, like colouring sheets. I can't remember. I don't know. They sent material. And no one wanted them. So they sat in that library for like 3 years straight. So I was staring at the poster for Holes or postcards with this movie on it for literally years. And I remember thinking, why doesn't the librarian throw these out? But I guess it's not often kids' books got adapted into big films like that, and they were also sent materials. And obviously, anything that's going to get kids excited in reading, like a film adaptation of a big book, I guess the librarian was just happy there was something. Do you know what I mean? Like that might interest children in reading more. But that was my only knowledge of the film. I saw the poster, I saw the materials. I didn't have obviously I didn't blame the materials and think the movie would be bad or have a negative thing of the movie because I was stuck staring at this poster for years. I just had no interest in it. The poster didn't interest me. The name didn't interest me. I don't know. I didn't know what it was about, but it never caught my interest at all. So I never saw it. I never read it. My knowledge is orange jumpsuits and digging holes. Part of me wondered if the movie was about some sort of comedy about beavers or something, where they were trying to capture some beavers that were making loads of holes in like farmland or something, and they brought in local like prison people to help them get them or something. If you'd have asked me to guess the movie's plot, that's as close as I would have got, I think, because that's all I knew was that there are holes in the ground and a bunch of kids in jumpsuits. So obviously, do you want me to go into my thoughts on the film now, or do you want to do your thoughts and then come back to me?
No, I want to hear your thoughts. By the way, apologies. I just opened up my internet browser to look something up, and I think a video about student loan repayments started playing, and I don't think my laptop was turned down. So if anyone heard that, I apologise.
That's hilarious. That's very funny. Let me just. I'm going to now double check my laptop is on mute. Yes, it is. Okay, good. I'm always really paranoid about that during the podcast anyway. And if you mention it, then I'm definitely going to double check. I double check at least 3 times a podcast anyway.
Yeah, well, usually I wouldn't. That must have been the last thing. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. It's a BBC News thing. I don't even remember watching the video. But anyway, give me your thoughts. That's what I'm after.
So I sit down to watch Holes for the first time yesterday, and I think it's a brilliant story. I think the world is full of like history and details that make it feel lived in. I think it's got this weird magical quality that I like. It's got this deeply bizarre tone that I totally dig. It's so off kilter. It's proper offbeat. You know, there's no movie that feels like this movie that I've ever seen. And I love the way the story builds and the history of the world informs the present, and it all sort of connects and turns back on itself. And a lot of that, it's a kid's story or a family film, I suppose. A lot of it you probably see coming a mile away. If you're in any way inclined to watch like a lot of movies or consume a lot of stories, you'll spot tricks that you're like, okay, this is going here, this is going to go here. I can see them setting this up. Because the thing is, this movie is a bit of a victim of its own tight writing, actually, because it's so tightly plotted that you know nothing is being wasted. So every time something seemingly incongruous happens, you sort of go, well, that's got to come back. That's something. That's not nothing. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing in this movie is nothing. So all of that stuff's really good. And it isn't shot brilliantly, I don't think, but it's structured really well in an editing sense too. I think they really do a great job letting the story unfold in an interesting way. They get us to the holes really quickly by sort of skipping elements of the backstory, but then coming back to them through flashbacks. There is so much I loved about this movie, but just something didn't click. And I spent the last 24 hours trying to break my brain about why I didn't love this movie, because on paper there was nothing hugely wrong with it. I chuckled a couple times, not many to be fair. It's low on laugh out loud gags. It's more just sort of an amusing film, to be fair. But that's its choice, I think. I loved the story. I loved the stuff about. I loved the way it handled storylines about racism. I loved the way that the various characters interact. I liked how it all unfolded. I was just scratching my head, and I realised what the problem is. And this is going to sound bad, but I think it's accurate to the book to a fault in one specific way. And I need to read the book to absolutely confirm this. But the characters are all really flat and one note. And I couldn't figure out why. Why is no one going on a detailed or interesting arc? They're sort of changing in very small ways, and I guess that's kind of part of it, but it just feels like everyone's in one place and they stay in that one place. The only character that has any kind of change doesn't really change. He's just doing what I feel like he would have done anyway. So let's talk about Steven. What's the character's actual name? Shia LaBeouf's character. Stanley. Stanley. Yeah. So Stanley does something good towards the end of the film, right? And lifts the curse. We'll talk in more detail about this in a minute, right? But it's not like he had to learn a lesson, improve himself, do the right thing, and lift the curse. He does that by just being the same nice, normal kid he's been the whole movie. And I'm thinking, why is this? And then it clicked. I literally have been doing lots of reading and listening to YouTube videos and stuff on storytelling through novels recently. I say recently, the last couple of years. And one video I watched, and when I say recently here, I mean this video is probably 6 months ago. I probably listened to this. Was a lady who used to be worked at a publishing house. She read a lot of manuscripts, and she was talking about the best thing about writing a book is the power you have to tell the audience, your characters' thoughts. Not through their actions, but through just telling us what they think. And that's a power novels have over films. Films have to show you how their characters are thinking and feeling by making them do things, say things. This adaptation is so faithful to the book, but I'm willing to bet the book has a lot of explanations about how all these characters are thinking and feeling that simply haven't made it to the film, because this is an adaptation of the story, not the character work. And I think that's why it didn't quite click for me. While I acknowledge and think this is a really surprisingly good film in many, many ways, the reason it didn't quite land, and this is for me, is because I did not connect to the characters, and that is because they've adapted the story but not the character stuff. And I think if I read the book, I would know more about how Stanley is thinking and feeling in any given scene, and probably met several of the other characters too. I don't know that for sure. It might just be sort of a Harry Potter style thing where like just one character is our focus, and we only ever get their thoughts and feelings and their impression of other characters' thoughts and feelings. I don't know if it's read like it. Maybe it's in that sort of omniscient third person where they know everything. I'm not sure how it's written, but my point is that I will be recommending this film. I think people should see this film. But for me, it was missing a very, very key ingredient that stopped me from loving the film, even though literally every other element of this film is really well done. And that is such a strange position to be in, having seen the film. And it took me a full day of banging my head on everything, trying to suss out what the problem was. I literally figured it out about 2 hours ago. I was like looking over my notes and just trying to... And that's when it hit me. The adaptation is almost too faithful. And it's led to an author who doesn't normally write screenplays not thinking enough about how to use the scenes and the characters' choices in the scenes to inform the characters. There's a little bit of that, but mostly things are happening to these people. Or they're behaving very consistently throughout and not growing in ways that I think are of note.
Yeah, their situations change more than their characters do. Like even, you could create an argument maybe for Zero, but even then I'd argue that actually a lot of that is about what's happening to Zero as opposed to his attributes or personality traits or desires or opinions or any of that changing. Like really, that doesn't really change for anyone. Even the rest of the gang, arguably at the end, they appear to be more of a gang. But even then, the one who's been a bit of a dick is still a bit of a dick at the end. Whereas, like, not everyone's as nice as us.
and to be honest with you, maybe that is just how the book is. And that probably works better on the pages of the book. Maybe the expectations for character work in storytelling in novels are different, especially because it's actually not that long a novel. I think I looked it up. It's like 200 pages. It's probably you'd read that in like 3 or 4 hours sort of book, I'm guessing. Yeah. So I'm in a weird position of telling listeners that they should see this film or read this book. But I think if you were watching it and you're feeling yourself not connecting to the material and you're not sure why, ponder your position on like character work. And I'm repeating this for the 1,000th time. One thing that has come up repeatedly on this podcast is for stories to function well for me, I really need the characters to be strong and to be growing or to be doing interesting things, because I feel like if I don't care about the people and things are just sort of happening to them, then I'm way less invested in the plot. And you can have the best, most interesting plot you've ever seen in any movie ever, I still won't be as invested in it as I should be, and I will feel that disconnect. And I felt that here, and it was such a shame, because I was like, I objectively know this is working on all these levels. It's really strange. I don't know how else to phrase it. Now look, if you've read the book and you have that context, and then you watch this film, which is an adaptation of that plot, and you're applying your character knowledge to this plot, oh man, you probably have a great time. Might explain why so many people who've read the book enjoy the film. It also might explain why someone might watch the film having read the book and finding it a bit... what did you say? Just slightly disappointing was how your very first viewing of it was? I wonder. I wonder if you were sensing that problem without even knowing that's what you were sensing. Because I didn't know what I didn't know why I wasn't connecting to it yesterday when I watched it the first time. So that's where
it's
I'm
interesting because I didn't bump out. It's one of those scenarios, and I'm now we're going to repeat my side of this discussion in the same vein you've repeated your side of this discussion, because I don't disagree with anything you've just said. I completely agree with all of it. I bumped up against it less, but as we've talked about many a times, I have a leaning to plot, you have a leaning to character, and the plot stuff is all done really, really well. As you yourself acknowledged. It's
brilliant.
But
it's so clever.
I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree at all about the character stuff. I think that's very fair. I assume at 200 pages, maybe that's just the book as well, but I could be wrong. I have
honestly,
not,
I might
don't
read
have
the book.
memory of it. Yeah, please.
Because it will be a quick read, and I liked the film enough and the plot enough to want to maybe get an expanded version of this or a more detailed version of this. And there'll be some differences. Like I said, one particular one I want to talk about later, but I think they're going to be mostly quite small. So yeah, I'm interested in the book.
I felt like one thing, and I don't mean this as an insult or a criticism, but I did have a slight feeling of, in some ways, and this may be what I felt when I was younger. I did have a slight feeling of like, who's this for? Because I think what's so amazing about what they do,
it's Shawshank Redemption for children, for teenagers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. I had two examples: Shawshank Redemption, but for kids, and The Green Mile for kids. Like that sort of slow build. Slow build. It's not like it's big action scenes. It's not like it's just this kind of slow, methodical build and revelation of what is happening and what has happened. And I haven't seen in a long time Stand By Me, but my memory is that Stand By Me is quite similar. But that film was made at a very different time, and I think appealed more to adults perhaps than this film would. And I was just watching it going, this is insane. This is inaccessible for children, Shawshank Redemption. But I'm not sure how interested children are in that, or teenagers are in that. Because, and I watched Shawshank quite young, but there's an element of, I'm being arty. I'm watching Shawshank Redemption. I like this movie. Da-da-da. You're not getting that with Holes.
No.
But, I thought it was, that element of it, I thought was absolutely fucking brilliant. Like, it was so well paced. It so drew me in. It drew me in, I have to say, a lot quicker than Jess. I think she felt, I don't know if she'd necessarily articulate it that way, but I will repeat to her your thoughts, and I think she will agree. Jess wasn't that into the film, and then I was like, but she stayed and watched it, and kind of about half an hour, we paused it at one point, and I was like, fucking hell, it's still got 45 minutes to go. And I was like, are you more invested now? And her response was, and I think it is what you were talking about, because her response was, I don't really feel overly invested, but I do want to know what happens and what's been happening. Yes. Although I think certain elements of it are very predictable.
Sure. I'm not going to begrudge it that, because predictability is such a hard thing to criticize a film on, because that's going to be really specific to the person watching it. Some people consume a huge amount of media and they see the signs, or some people have, in our case, studied screenwriting and know the tricks. We know a Chekhov's gun when we see one, but so sometimes it's, especially if you're a person who studies screenwriting and has ADHD, and you're likely to do pattern recognition too, is you just know the movie's no chance. The movie's no chance. You won't get it all right, but you'll certainly smell stuff in the air before it happens, and that's just, that's no one's fault. And certainly a child or a teenager wouldn't figure it out.
I'd be intrigued to know whether this is something they wrestled with, and so we both really recommend the movie. A lot to it is like genuine high art for kids, and that's really kind of interesting.
Can I briefly speak on that before we move on to more detail? Because I really wanted to. You hit on something else I wanted to talk about, and that is what I wanted to say. Go on. Sorry.
Can I finish? Because I was just about to finish. Could I just finish the predictable thing? The movie's not. It's just what I was going to say is slightly spoilery. That's why I said.
I see. Okay.
The movie also doesn't. I would love to know whether they felt making it might be too dense and they had to make it clear. Because the other defense I'd give on the predictability thing is the movie's not hiding anything, especially when he carries Hector up the mountain and they literally play the audio. They replay the audio of the curse and the conditions of the curse, and there's some shit they let the audience know way before the characters know or realize, which seems a bit mad to me. Like, I don't know if it would have been better, Hector carries a photo of his grandma or something and they look at the photo and that's how. I think there were probably ways you could hide the reveals, but they chose not to. So I think the other defense of the predictability is, the movie's not trying to be anything but that. I don't want you to lose your point, and I rambled slightly then. You were going to talk about the notion of it being a kind of Shawshank Redemption for kids, and you wanted to say more about that.
Yeah, just briefly, I'll try and keep this short. I think it's something about the way this movie is structured, and it kind of actually links a little bit into what you just said as well. I think this sort of combines the 2 points, because the movie doesn't hide things like there, where it plays the sound over it, but there's also moments when the movie is quite trusting of its audience. Like, the opening of the movie, the first 5 minutes, maybe even 10, I'm like, what's happening? Like, he found some shoes and now he's arrested? Like, you're sort of like trying to piece it together and you're just like scratching your head going, and now he's digging hole. Like, there's just like the holes thing. The immediate thing with the holes, by the way, is they're searching for something, because that's one of the things that's predictable. But the true nature of how he ended up there and the curse and all that stuff, it's just a lot of information thrown at you very quickly without much explanation, which is designed to, as a good plot should, intrigue you. And it does, because I definitely didn't understand all of what was happening in the first few minutes of the movie, and the movie trusted that I would be patient enough to wait for it to give me the answers. And it does. And I think that is, you get that in sort of more prestige material. This is the sort of movie that if it was aimed at adults would be sort of award nominated, like that sort of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's necessarily like likely to win 1,000 Oscars, but it would definitely be considered for that kind of thing, because it is structured in a way that is designed not to just be light entertainment, nice, easy, fun film about kids digging holes, and it wants to be something beyond that. It wants to elevate what it's doing to something a bit more resembling like art. And that's not to say all movies aren't art, or that there are a section of movies that aren't art. There are movies that exist in a realm where they're more inclined to be wanting to entertain you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Some of my all-time favourite movies are nowhere near the realms of art in the truest sense. They are simply good entertainment, and that's absolutely wonderful. But this film is trying to be something more, and I really respect the creatives on this front trying to do something challenging with the movie, trying to make a movie with a tone unlike any movie of its time. Like, I have yet to watch a trailer for how this movie. I am fascinated as to how they marketed this movie. Actually, I should have watched one before doing this. Never occurred to me, but because how the fuck do you market this movie? I don't know, because it is like trying to be a really interesting sort of film that's elevating its genre. And to come back to that question of who's it for, I guess that is an interesting point, because it's for kids who want something a bit more complex, I guess, is the actual answer, or families that are looking to watch something with a bit more thought put into it than, I don't know. Oh, I'm trying to think of, what was that one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was like, I've got a kid now or something. You know what I mean? Like one of those like family films that's like, kindergarten.
So this came out the same. So I've googled 2003 family films. So this came out the same year as Daddy Daycare, Cheaper by the Dozen, Spy Kids 3D, Kangaroo Jack.
Right. And that's exactly...
Also came out the same year as Elf. But yeah.
Perfect. Daddy Daycare, Kangaroo Jack are exactly the sort of movie I'm thinking of. And this movie could easily have been one of those. And again, I'm not criticizing either of those films. To be honest with you, I've seen neither of those two films. I've not seen Daddy Daycare. I've not seen Kangaroo Jack. But like films in that genre are absolutely fine and great for kids. I just wonder, like, to do something a bit more complex and a bit more interesting and a bit more challenging as a family film or a kids film is a really great idea. Did this film completely nail it? I'm not so sure, but I love that they tried, and you can tell every frame of this film they were thinking about it. Every word on that page, it's so tightly written. It is written within an inch of its life, and again, you do get drawn in. You do want the answers. The plot unfolding is what's driving you. Could it have potentially been elevated even further had there been some more interesting character work in the film? I think probably so. I think that would have driven it from this incredible attempt to do something really elevated to actually being like a masterpiece. Because let me tell you, plot-wise, they nailed that. All they needed was this one other element, and I think it would have actually made it something really special. But as it is, it's still really functional to brilliant fun, depending on your personal need for the characters to be people you're really invested in seeing learn and grow and succeed in their things. Because to be fair to the film, all of these characters do have things they want to achieve. Well, actually, I mean, that's not true, really, is it? Actually, I'm just realizing that is only really true for one character. Zero has a thing he wants to achieve. Zero wants to find his mum. What does our main character Stanley want, other than to get out of his situation?
You talk the villains as well. Like the Winona Ryder very much has something she wants to achieve. So I think
Winona Ryder.
Not Winona Ryder,
Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, okay. For a second, I was like, holy shit, did I miss Winona Ryder in this movie? Okay, no, you're talking about Sigourney Weaver. Okay, yes, sorry.
Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, so...
Yeah. Anyway, I thought... So, yeah, look, before we go into spoilers, I'll just say it one last time. You should see this. You should give this a go or read the book. I think the story is worth experiencing, for sure, even if it was imperfect. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to talk about in spoilers first? Where do you want to go with the more detailed discussion, Chris?
Well, okay, here's a question. I'll throw this question out, and it's going to frustrate you because you're going to be like, I don't fucking know. Like, it's a very personal to you question. But here's a question. Mm-hmm. I infamously, maybe not infamously, but as you're aware, because it's an element we disagreed on, I didn't like the flashback structure and use in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 for some reason. Mm-hmm. I couldn't really put my finger on why. I didn't have a problem here. And as I'm watching the film, I'm going, why do I not have a problem here? Like, because, you could say because every flashback, like you said, there's not a line wasted, but I'd argue that's also true of Guardians 3. Like, what's your view on the flashbacks? Do you think they do anything different? Do you think actually it's as, because I hold my hands up, it could be. Do you think it's as simple as I'm going, well, yeah, it's based on a book. That makes sense that there would be this sort of structure in flashbacks. Is it? Bonus West Wing star. I didn't realise Drew Hill was in it. Is it that some of the flashbacks contain Charlie from the West Wing? What are your views on the flashbacks, the use of them? And do you agree that it's kind of a masterstroke that they get away with essentially telling like 3 different stories at the same time? And why do you think they get away with it? And why do you think I like it more than I did in Guardians Volume 3?
I think I could potentially answer the Guardians 3 one. I think it's a guess. It's a guess because I'm not in your brain. But if someone said to me, gun to your head, what do you think the problem for Chris was in Guardians versus this? The Guardians flashbacks weren't informing the plot so much as they were informing the characters. They were character driven. We were learning emotionally why Rocket is the way he is. Now there was some plot relevance to that too, because the person who put Rocket in that situation in the past was the same villain they were facing in the modern day. But they weren't telling us anything new about that villain that we wouldn't have gotten from context, basically. So what we were really learning about is Rocket's personality and why he's the way he is in the modern day. These flashbacks are teaching us about the plot. They're teaching us about the whys and the wheres and the hows and the practicalities. So you're getting answers to questions that you might have in these flashbacks. And to go back to our old adage, you're the plot guy, I'm the character guy. I prefer the flashbacks in Guardians. You prefer the flashbacks here. And I think it might very well be that simple. And I'm not sure, but that might be it. Well, I don't know. How do you feel about that as a potential explanation? Does that ring true to your brain?
Yeah, I don't like it in the sense that I feel like I should value the character flashbacks in Guardians more. But I think that does make sense as an explanation and could very well be it for sure.
Or at least a part of it. Obviously, execution, length, how they're edited into the movie, these things all impact how a flashback is perceived as well. So there's obviously numerous factors. In terms of how they get away with it here, I think it's a combination of really good editing and the really great plot making you want to know more. Like the flashbacks don't feel like, oh God, here's some boring flashback about people I don't care about, because I don't care about the people in the present. So I'm more like, oh, cool, a flashback. I'm going to learn about the backstory to the events I am witnessing. And that's exciting because the thing I'm most invested in is the story. And we're about to unfold more of the story. I'm about to learn more about how we got to where we are in the modern day. So the reasons the flashbacks work here, in my opinion, is because of how brilliant this story is and how interesting it is and how unusual it is. And you're looking for the pieces. You want the pieces. The movie makes you want to know. So when it goes, here's a piece of the puzzle, you're like, yes, please, feed me. I can't build the puzzle without the pieces. This has to fit. I want it to fit. So the movie teaches you to want the flashbacks, I think. And again, I credit to the movie because let me tell you, the Daddy Daycare version of this movie, I shouldn't really use that as an example because I've not seen that movie. I need to look up a movie from that era that I have seen. But a family comedy of that era would have normally, right, started with the shoes and him getting the shoes and finding out who threw them and him getting arrested, and then like we do all of the preamble. We might even have a scene before we see Stanley from like, setting up the curse, like doing the movie would have started with the curse flashback. That's what it would have happened. If it had been a family movie from the time, it would have started with the curse flashback, then fully it showed us everything around the shoes, and then it would have taken us into the camp. Maybe we'd have gotten the one flashback to the past in the middle of the movie for the sort of the stuff at the lake prior to it being dried out. But the structure would have been way simpler. They wouldn't have challenged us at all. I guarantee it. I the structure of this movie, and I don't know how much of that's on the page and how much of that is just a really good editor. Maybe a little of both. I'm not sure. But like, my God, is the way this story put together is genius.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and also benefiting from the great performances in all those flashbacks, and great names. Yeah. There's points where you're watching this movie, and first of all you're like, oh, Jewel Hill, apologies if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, and then
I looked up how to pronounce his name for this podcast because I've never known how to pronounce his name ever. It's always been a sticking point for me. So I actually found YouTube videos to learn how to pronounce his name, and it's Dule Hill. Dule Hill, lovely. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Dan, not the only West Wing star in this movie. Did you spot the other one? The other one's hard to spot, to be fair. I don't think I did, No.
Yeah, it's hard. The woman who plays, Alison Smith, who plays Sigourney Weaver's grandmother, presumably. So the person who does marry the arsehole who owned the lake. She also plays Leo's daughter in the West Wing.
Does she? Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Would she be her? Wouldn't she be her great? Would she be her great grandmother? No, she'd be just her grandmother.
I got the impression grandma because it's the grand. He is the one yelling at her and telling her to dig and all of that sort of stuff. So I assumed grandfather, maybe even father, maybe great grandmother. I don't know.
I'm sure it makes sense when you watch the movie, but yeah, it's there are 4 generations intertwining here, so it's a bit easy to get lost as to who's...
Oh, maybe it'll be great. Maybe it'll be great then. But yeah, they've got really great actors.
Yeah.
Like I almost don't know how they like.
Well, no. So wait, no. So just quickly, the blonde woman that ends up with the arsehole, she's not from the furthest generation we see here. She's the next. She's because the guy that Patricia Arquette robs is Stanley's great grandfather. Because then his grandfather tells him the story of his dad being robbed. So that's 3 generations back. So I think it would theoretically make it Sigourney Weaver's great grandmother, I think.
But are we talking about Stanley's family? We're talking about Sigourney Weaver's family, aren't we?
Yes, but we're using Stanley's family to place the generational timeline.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because we know that Patricia Arquette's character robs Stanley's great-grandfather at that time, and he was a sort of middle-aged man. She's 10 to 15 years younger than him, so that might be enough to make her Sigourney Weaver's grandmother, but I suspect it probably places her more as great. But I'm sure if you read the book or watch the film with that in mind, you can piece it together. But I'm just going off the information I remember.
Yeah, but I think it's definitely that it's him. It's the arsehole from the town that's yelling at Sigourney Weaver, isn't it? Because they go to the effort of showing like the gold tooth as he's yelling and stuff like that. So I think it is.
But that doesn't make any sense because that it can't be too long ago. Like it can't be her. It can't be because it can't be her granddad. I don't think. Well, it could be her granddad, I guess, but it wouldn't be her dad.
No, I don't know.
There's too much time has passed. Because keep in mind, we know that Stanley Yelnats the first is the one that's robbed because it's his case they find, and he's robbed in the same time as that the blonde girl chooses to be with the arsehole from the town.
So yeah, I agree. But so according to Villains Wiki, which is amazing, according to Villains Wiki, Linda Walker, which is the character in question, Linda Walker is a minor character in Holes. She used to be a student of Kissing Kate Barlow and has married Trout Walker.
Correct.
She is the paternal grandmother of the warden. Is what the
so she's her grandmother. Okay, so she's a grandmother, not her great grandmother. Very interesting.
But anyway. Yeah, whether the timings line up exactly, who knows?
Well, I guess you know what. Actually, one thing that I haven't considered is she's younger than Stanley's great grandfather, and Sigourney Weaver is way older than Stanley. So I guess actually, if Sigourney Weaver is roughly Henry Winkler age, then actually that does work. It's just that she doesn't have a child, so she's a generation off because she's not had a kid herself yet. Yeah. So actually, that does work. There you go. Oh, put it together in the end.
But yeah. So I thought it's the fact that everyone's brilliant. You're like Patricia Arquette's like playing a flashback character. Like this is amazing, and obviously it's a great character. And actually, I think she adds an awful lot to that role. Yeah. I think it turns out at first you think that, but there are no small parts because of the way in which we return to these flashback characters. But the casting on this job is phenomenal, and like I say, it's sort of on paper the type of movie where you're surprised they get these names, but they do, and they're all brilliant. I don't think even in a movie full of child actors, I don't think there's really a bad performance in this movie. Do you think there is?
No, I don't think there is. And I was particularly, and she is one of the smaller roles, but Eartha Kitt as well as Madame Zeroni. I love Eartha Kitt in general. Obviously, if you're a Batman fan, and particularly a sort of a Adam West era Batman fan, then you know about Eartha Kitt. Have I got that right? I'm not mixing her up with someone else, am I? I'm worried I'm mixing her up with someone else now. Have I got her mixed up?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
Yeah, okay. In the late '60s, Batman featured Kit as Catwoman. Okay, yes. Oh my god, because I'm looking at her profile and it's like it's music. Like she's a singer-songwriter, and like I'm like looking. I'm like, am I a crazy person? And then I found it halfway down her page. Okay, she was Catwoman in the she was Catwoman 2 technically because the original lady left the show, but she was Catwoman in the Adam West Batman. Love Eartha Kitt. She was great in that. She's great in this. Always happy to see some Eartha Kitt. Obviously, yeah, Henry Winkler is just wonderful in this role. I don't know the actress off from name or even like don't particularly recognize her face to play Stanley's mother, but she's fucking amazing, and her comic timing in this movie, and some of the absolutely unhinged ways she delivers dialogue in this movie. Is fantastic. She's called Siobhan Fallon Hogan, and she is brilliant in this film. Like, properly unhinged in the best way. Oh, man, she was in all 16 episodes of Wayward Pines, I've just found out, Chris. There you go.
Mate, and obviously, you remember that you've watched her, from the security and comfort of your bathtub. Yeah, but I looked her up yesterday. And it's insane. Like, her Wikipedia, so this is the opening of her Wikipedia. She has appeared in 3 of Lars von Trier's features to date, Dancer in the Dark, Dogville, and The House That Jack Built. Her other film credits include Forrest Gump, Men in Black, The Neighbour, Holes, Daddy Daycare, hey, she had a good year in 2003, Fever Pitch, Charlotte's Web, Funny Games, Baby Mama, The Bounty Hunter, We Need to Talk About Kevin, Going in Style, A Saturday Night Live, Seinfeld, and Wayward Pines.
Right.
It's mad.
Right. I know exactly who she is in Men in Black, and she's fucking phenomenal in that too. She's really funny in that too. I think if she's who I think she is in Men in Black, she's like one of the best characters in the whole movie. Like, she's one of the funniest. She's only in the opening of the movie, if she's who I think she is, and I'm going to double check. She tells Edgar that his face is all wrong. Yeah, that's who she is. Amazing. Yes, she's exactly who I thought she was in Men in Black. That's wonderful. Okay, so there you go. So I clearly clocked the talent there because my god, she's great.
She was in 3 episodes of Seinfeld. So I'm like, who was she in Seinfeld? She was Elaine's roommate.
Yeah. On all the kids as well, we should call out some. Obviously, we haven't talked about Tim Blake Nelson or John Voight, but they're all so amazing. And Sigourney Weaver, of course, is always the best. I don't think I need to tell people that Tim Blake Nelson, John Voight, and Sigourney Weaver are good at acting. But if we're on the performances as well, I think all the kids are great. Shia LaBeouf obviously gives a really great performance. There's something very natural about Shia LaBeouf. Particularly in this movie, which is so strange considering how unnatural his behavior is outside of movies.
I think, I think there is. It is a really, in a really positive way. It is a really understated performance,
yes, it is.
And actually, what's so impressive about that is like 90% of child actors given this role would not play it understated. But he is, and he's, and it feels like he's, some of that will be on the page, and who knows what was the direction, but it feels like he's also making a lot of really strong, good choices with it as well. I think he absolutely deserves all the plaudits for this film.
And Cleo Thomas, who plays Hector, or Zero in this case, amazing. It's just probably my favorite performance in the movie, if I'm being honest. Like, most of the film's heart comes from Zero, in my opinion. And while, Siobhan Fallon Hogan is one of my favorite, like, comedic performances in the movie. Everything she says and does in this movie makes me laugh. Cleo Thomas is the heart of the film, I think. And Shia LaBeouf's character, unfortunately, is generally... He is a bit bland. in what he says and does and how he talks. Like he's not, you know what I mean? He's not got a funny accent or like a weird tick, or I don't know. They don't give him a lot to do from a performance perspective. He's just sort of like being the main character. His character is a main character, which is really, a bit bland. Sort of nice guy, pushed around by everyone, just does what the story needs him to do. But Shia LaBeouf brings a sort of authenticity to that. But as a result, he doesn't stand out over Cleo Thomas, who I think is truly the heart of the film. What a brilliantly emotionally charged performance that is. So
Absolutely.
good cast.
Nice. Great cast. Great soundtrack, as Daniel pointed out. It's such a hard movie to review in a way, because you just sort of go, those three things we've sort of already discussed are sort of the main things. And I guess that is that also a reflection on the character stuff, because it's not like we've got arcs particularly to dissect. But the thing that makes the movie really, really work is the performances and its structure and its tone and its plotting. I don't know. What other notes have you got?
I wanted to talk about one story choice that's different in the film from the book, because I thought this was very interesting. So in the film, and this is full spoilers now, like if you've not seen the movie, you should really stop here. In the film, in the ending of the movie, these two guys show up and are like, you guys are not treating these kids right and you're all going to jail, which is deeply convenient and a very strange thing to happen, and it feels very Disney, if I'm being honest, that they were like, well, we can't have these guys continue to just make children dig holes. And that's the punishment for the bad guys at the end of the movie, right? And something I think cleverer is done in the books, because the book and the film is somewhat about American justice and corrections, and just does the way we treat people who've committed crimes, particularly smaller crimes, petty crimes, theft, things like that, non-violent offenders, is the way we treat them. Are these systems broken? Is there a better way to handle these things? And the film explores that in many ways, in the way the people are they're dehumanized because they've committed a crime, and therefore there's this weird feeling that like it's acceptable to mistreat people because they have committed a crime, and this weird societal feeling on that. And I think the book handles that, and the film handles that reasonably well as a film aimed at a family audience could handle it. See Shawshank if you want a more intricate and brutal look at American prison sort of culture or whatever, and many other countries too. But what's interesting about the difference, the way the movies end, in the book, they don't get shut down. They get to continue doing what they're doing, but they're punished in a different way, which is that they do end up finding out what's in the box, but it's not worth very much in the modern day, what's in the box. It's a life-changing amount of money for Stanley and his family, but it's not enough money to be life-changing for Sigourney Weaver's character. It's this perfect middle ground amount of money that will really improve Stanley's life, but considering the years and the generations of her family have been chasing this money like it would be generational wealth, it turns out to not be worth that at all. And they've just spent their entire lives and every penny they had chasing a box with, a chunk of money, but not what they were after. And the punishment is almost like finding out it was not worth it. And I think that's better. Now, how you express that idea in a film, I actually don't know, because it is much cleaner to just be like, and then she went to prison with all her abusive cronies. But I really like the sort of poetic irony of that ending, personally.
Yeah, especially because also you can have your cake and eat it, because they can, if you want to do that, but you also want the prison to be shut down and you want the kids to be free and the happy ever after swimming pool scene, well, he just makes his money from the foot odor remover thing. Like they become millionaires because, he's finally got the foot Oda to work. Henry Winkler, who we've also not shouted out, but is brilliant in this movie.
Yeah.
Well,
is that not? Don't they blow all that money on the big fancy lawyer that exonerates Even Stevens? That's why the big fancy lawyer comes up and is like, hand him over to me. He's free because we've proven his innocence. And they're like, well, he's not here.
Oh, what? Because we've got foot cleaner money.
Because I think at the beginning of the movie, what's established is they can't afford a lawyer, like a decent like lawyer. So like he's working like with he's like a he's just like I think he's got just like the defense lawyer that they give you, the free one. And I feel I might have misunderstood. Don't quote me on this, but my impression was that they do get a chunk of money from the discovery of, and for anyone who's wondering why we're talking about foot odor, the story is that our main character, Even Stevens' dad, is just
the Fonz. If we're gonna call the booth Even Stevens, then I think we can call Henry Winkler's character the Fonz.
Fair enough. So Even Stevens' dad, the Fonz, is determined to resolve foot odor forever with some sort of concoction, and he has been trying for years and failing, and it's this weird little dream of his. And the idea is, and I'd have to check the movie to make sure the timing of this works, but the minute Stanley, is he called Stanley? Did I get it right that time? Yeah. I've confused myself with the Even Steven thing. The minute Stanley lifts the curse, he solves it. Because the curse has been lifted. One of the many ways in which this movie is very clever. And as a result, he then, gets a bunch of money, and that's what they use to pay the lawyer who then comes down, who goes to the trouble of exonerating Stanley, separate to her visit to the thing. And the reason she shows up and is like, where's the child? Give him to me. I'll be back with even more lawyers and a warrant or whatever, is because she was expecting to turn up and be like, he's been exonerated, he's free, I'm coming to get him. And that's all theoretically happened as a result of the curse being lifted and the bad luck finally going away.
But there could then be more. The product's a huge success.
More foot odor money. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
They could have foot money. Yeah. Because you sort of go. I think you almost, because some of that money is like, obviously a lot of it is Stanley's, but some of it is also shit she's nicked from other people. that isn't theirs. So, I think there's also that element. There's the kind of implications of, but some of this is just, would they be able to claim some of those bonds? Like, I don't know what's Stanley's and what's not. I think
if you are physically in possession of the bond, you can. I believe that's how that works, because there's been many movies about people stealing bonds, and my understanding is that and look, I don't know the answer to this question. I'm simply saying that if you can't steal a bond and then cash it because it's like not in your name or whatever, and therefore you don't own it, then like I can think of hundreds of movies that are suddenly like have this giant plot hole. So I've got to assume that a bond is transferable, because if it isn't who physically owns the bond, or at least old paper bonds were transferable by physically owning them, that must be how it works, because otherwise I can think of, like I said, 100 movies where that doesn't make any sense.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I just feel like that is a more poetic ending for the bad guys, I think. I think there's something more interesting about that, and it feels more fitting with the story we've been telling, which has been quite challenging. And the fact that they sort of, and I don't know this to be true, but my suspicion is they got a sort of Disney-esque ending. Because they were sort of like, it feels like they said, well, that's a bit hard to communicate in a film. That like it's a good amount of money, enough to improve the lives of someone like Stanley, but would have been not that worth enough for it to have been worth the years her family have spent chasing it, the money they've put into chasing it. Expressing that in the story and in the movie would have been probably quite challenging. So it's probably a combination of, it's a nicer, cleaner Disney ending that they put handcuffs on the bad guys, but also from a practical perspective, from a writing perspective, I'm not sure how you illustrate that poetically ironic ending for her anyway. Without having her just really overtly saying it, I suppose. This isn't enough money for it to have been worth it for me at all. But annoyingly, it's a perfect amount of money to change the lives of Stanley and his dad to the Fonz.
I think it works. Whilst contrived, it does work though. Like, you know what I mean. You do sort of want that happy ending. I don't think it just feels a little contrived. But yeah, I think it works well enough for the. It doesn't feel distinctly different to the rest of the movie.
No, I would agree.
But I agree with you. I think the book ending is better and more interesting.
But the book ending is better and more interesting, I think. But hey, look, we can't have it all. And if that's the only major difference, I think they got it. They nailed it. Another thing I want to talk about, Chris, and look, this is minor in the grand scheme of things, but the CGI lizards are fucking dreadful. Now, the movie mostly...
CGI lizards are awful.
the movie mostly uses bearded dragons and paints them to create. I should clarify. There's a creature that exists in this film that isn't a real creature. It's some sort of spotted lizard that's the most venomous thing in the world. And if it bites you, you're definitely dead. But for some reason, they won't bite you if you've been eating magic onions. I don't know. Whatever. Like it works in the context of the film. It's a bit strange, but the movie's a bit strange. So it's an offbeat plot point, but the movie's offbeat. So pass. But the lizards are mostly played by bearded dragons. Mostly. The problem is bearded dragons are quite placid and aren't likely to hiss on cue or chase a person. Because and for anyone listening who's ever handled or been in the room with a bearded dragon, you'll know they mostly like to stay still. And look at what's going on around them. They're not very active creatures. So the movie is forced on 3 occasions, maybe 4 occasions, to replace the real-life bearded dragons with these CGI monstrosities to make them chase, jump, or hiss, or fan out their neck flaps to sort of be threatening, and to do a bite in one scene. And it looks fucking awful every single time. I mean, you get away with it because the movie doesn't have a huge number of special effects shots, whatever. But, like, fuck me, it looks bad. It looks really bad. They're very unconvincing. And they're also not particularly convincing when they're bearded dragons either, because they just always seem placid, and the movie wants me to believe they're these deeply threatening things. The lizards are kind of one of the weak things about the filmmaking of the movie, to be honest with you, because there's just nothing you can do. They're either CGI and they look aggressive and scary, but they don't look like they're really there at all. They look like a video game plopped into the middle of my movie. Or you get the bearded dragons and they're just sort of sitting there with spots painted on them, and you'd go, well, that's the least threatening creature on the planet. I'd give that a cuddle quite happily.
The worst is definitely this. It also doesn't help that the worst CGI for them is, I'm pretty sure, the first time they appear.
Correct.
Like the first time you see one and he's running towards Stanley and Thingamajig shoots it, you're like, fucking hell, that looked ropey. Mm-hmm. And if memory serves, there's some relatively ropey CGI when they're climbing the thumb at the end as well. Sure. And LaBouffe nearly falls.
There's also one when it bites Patricia Arquette's character on the hand. That's a CGI for a moment, and that doesn't look good either, which is unfortunate because that's quite an important scene, and it does. I was taken out of what was quite a dramatic scene by the CGI creature clamping down on Patricia Arquette's hand and her not moving at all, like its weight exists.
Yeah, which is also mad because you really don't need to see it bite her. Like, she plays that entire scene like she's dying from the minute they find her. So her just holding up her hand and showing bite marks, and like maybe we see the lizard crawl away. That would be enough.
It would. It really would. There's no need for it. I 100% agree with you. In fact, I think that not only is that like better because it avoids showing us the lizard, but also I just think that's more dramatic. Realizing that the deed was done before they even arrived is just way more interesting. I will say on that note though, one thing I loved about this movie is the attention to detail and the way they interconnect things that don't need to be interconnected. The boat they find out on the lake is the boat where Dooley Hill's character was shot. Like, his boat is still on the lake bed, and that's what they're sitting on. It's what Patricia Arquette's character finds earlier in the movie. Like, that's such a fun idea. The idea that curses are so real, the minute that town killed that man, they didn't get rain again, and it ruined their economy and it ruined everything. Like, turned that town to nothing because of their horrible, selfish act. Like, the universe, or I like to think, the character, the Onion Man himself, just as a spirit, just fucking with them. Like, I love that. I absolutely love that. And then the rain coming back at the end, like the way all these details. That just, again, I talked about this at the very beginning. The world feels so lived in. It feels so real. Because of the attention to detail, things like that. You could do one or two of those in an average film, but this movie has like hundreds of details like that. They're all stacked on top of each other. Discovering Zero's parentage is that of Madame Zeroni, who Stanley's family generations ago had quote unquote wronged. Just every time you get like details like that, and it gives the world texture and builds on itself. It's just genius. It's really, really, really way cleverer than it probably needed to be. If I'm being honest.
Yeah, and just I loved and again, you realise what's happening as it happens.
Sure.
But the origins of Kiss Me Kate or Kissing Kate, whatever she's called, like as you start to realise, she's becoming that person. Like she's about to transform because of this happening. And the movie, there's a worse version of this movie where it doesn't devote the time to that story and just like does a quick 2-minute scene where it gives you the information.
Yeah.
But the fact that the movie is, I would argue, brave enough, because again, we've said it before, but it is a family film. Mm-hmm. The fact that the movie is brave enough to really take the time to tell that story, because arguably the movie's main character arc is actually her. Like we do.
That's a great point. She does have the best character arc of the movie. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
it's a simple story of revenge, but it is a good one.
Oh, it's great! Like, and the romance between her and I don't know the character's name, but evidently we're just using. Well, we're using character names from other properties, so Charlie. The relationship
Charlie
between her and
Charlie from the West Wing.
Charlie from the West Wing is beautiful. Yeah, I really loved that.
You know what I'm realizing? My favorite parts of the movie were those flashbacks, and I think it's because I was most invested in those characters. Their story was heartbreaking, and I really cared about what happened to them. And my investment increased a bit as we went through the film because I became a bit more attached to Zero.
Yeah. Do you think her confidence that her, and I love the way she delivered the line, but she's so good in this movie. But the way she delivers, your children's children are going to search for hundreds of years, and you're never gonna find it. Like fundamentally, I don't mean to be a dick, but she did just bury it in the sand. Like she had a lot of confidence for someone that didn't necessarily do anything. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they would have the plan, arguably. Anyone else is digging that hole, the plan's going to work unless it's tied to, the curses and the magic of the place and all that sort of stuff. She was very confident that
she was very confident.
They wouldn't find it.
It's a fair point. I would if I was fansplaining it, and it would be that, it would be simply that the lake bed is just so physically large, you wouldn't be able to dig up in any quick time enough of it. Like the odds of finding it, she knew it was a needle in a haystack, and that if you did want to find it, because she's not left any clue or map or marker, she just fully dug a hole as deep as she could do it and dropped the thing in anywhere in a giant lake bed that's clearly very large. Like it's basically a full, several mile long desert or whatever now. I guess her logic was simply, statistically speaking, the odds of you finding that anytime soon are fucking nothing. Like, good luck digging up every inch of this giant lake bed. I think that's what she was
also
sort of
the
expressing.
The plan, they don't really dig every inch. Like, all of those holes have, do you know what I mean? Like, areas around them that haven't been done.
That's a good point, too. Yeah, it could have been in those little gaps between the holes. I guess that's why when they find the lipstick, they start doing a more detailed excavation of that area. although they have the wrong
yeah,
area.
yeah.
Because that's another choice that's brilliant, by the way. Just so simple, so smart. Even Steven knows where that thing is buried the whole movie. Like he finds it like day 3. Like he knows exactly where it is, what they're looking for, but he's just not stupid enough to get it because he doesn't want it or care. And 2, he's not just going to help the warden out because he knows the warden's up to shenanigans. He knows that this isn't a good place. It's genius. Like he puts that rock where he puts that rock because he knows there's a chance at some point he might go back for it. But he figures it out immediately, and the movie sets it up in a way. It's such a clever idea because at the moment, as it happens, you're just like, oh, they're telling me something about this character. But the character, I forget which one it is. Is it X-Ray? The kid that's like, I've been here the longest. You've only been here a few weeks. When you find something and you get the day off, you're giving it to me. I'm getting the day off. That just seems like a character thing, like we're just being mean to even Steven to make you, the audience, feel sympathetic to him. He's being mildly bullied by these other kids or whatever. But what it's doing storyline-wise is setting up a circumstance in which she can think she's found the spot for the buried treasure and dig like crazy, but is in the wrong place while leaving our main character perfectly aware of where it is. That's such a simple solution to that storytelling problem. They properly get to have their cake and eat it too. Because without having Sigourney Weaver get a clue that brings her down, the warden, that brings her down and makes her start digging like that, we'll never reveal officially the plot thread that they're looking specifically for something. Well, okay, we won't have a good way to reveal it. The way to reveal it will be just saying it, which is boring. Having her show up in that very dramatic fashion, sort of 45 minutes into the movie, reallocate everyone. No, you're not digging individual holes anymore. We're doing a full sweep. And that's how you learn that they're after something specific. That's a great way to do that from a storytelling perspective. And that only works
brilliant.
Because of the weird plot choice to have, I think it's X-Ray, be like, no, you're going to give me the interesting thing when you find it. Which at the time does not seem like that's what it's for. So it's working on a character level and a plot level. And the movie's full of details like that. Full of them.
And it's mad that the other kids don't A, figure out that they're looking for something, and B, then realise they're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
I do. Are you ready to? Have you got your coat nearby, Dan? You ready to get your coat and your shoes on a second?
Yeah, I can get my shoes on. Okay, it's starting to warm up here in South Korea, Chris. I hesitate to say that because I've been warned there'll be a second cold snap coming, but I don't think I'll need my coat. I'm in a jumper. I think I'm just going to put my shoes on if that's all right.
Well, let's do that, and let's nip to nitpick corner, which I don't know if that's a bit we do on this or we just did on Avatar, but anyway, it's
nitpick corner. I think nitpick corner might have started on Rewind Reviews.
Oh, okay, fine. If you're gonna have Zero steal a spade, and you have the two guys arguing over the car, show us one of them spotting Zero. Because, just show them, just a look. It's like 2 seconds of film of just wait a second. Because otherwise, when the warden shows up, when Ripley's there, you're just like, well, hold on a minute. Like, what has led you there? Why have you realised they're there?
Yeah.
And actually, sorry, say that again?
No, I said, yeah, I was agreeing, fully agreeing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, just, it's so weird to me. Like, it's like literally adding 2 seconds of film. Well, probably not even 2 seconds. As he's getting the spade, you have one of them nudge the other one and point because they've just seen them. And that's why 20 seconds later, they appear. Mm-hmm. So that's my nitpick. I also have a question, Dan.
Sure, I love a question.
Did you think, like I did, that Gideon from Minority Reports hate for we haven't got another name for this kid, have we? For Zero, it's the only character we're calling by his character name. Did you think his disdain and hate for him was so much that it was gonna be revealed that there was a reason for it? Because I'm like, surely this is gonna be a plot point, and we're gonna find out why his disdain for Zero is so visceral.
Yes, I agree. I did actually look into this because I was curious about this.
Oh.
And I couldn't find anything from the author confirming what was going on with this. But I did read an interesting post on Reddit from someone who said it was a character thing. It was sort of designed to show us about the way in which the quote unquote doctor abuses these children, because he doesn't do it in the we've got a guy that's physically abusing them, getting them out in the sun every day as, you know, drill sergeant, getting them digging in the heat, physically abusing them. The other guy's role is mentally breaking them and abusing them, and he does that in a number of ways. And his aggression to Zero, in this person's view, and I think this is a very good read of it, and it is fansplaining, but it's a good read of it, is because it doesn't work on Zero. He's frustrated by Zero because Zero won't speak to him. Zero won't engage with him. Zero has taken his power to do what he does to hurt these children away from him. And I thought that may not have been the author's intent. I have no idea. And it's certainly not in the full text of the movie. If it's there, it's subtext. But I think that's a really good explanation for it. And that is certainly my headcanon for it, because I think that enriches the characters quite some bit and works perfectly with what's on screen. Now, it might be that the commentary in question was also bringing context from the book that we don't get in the movie, but it does certainly explain it. Because I was curious about the same thing, because I wondered also, as you did, were they going... Because the movie is so tightly plotted, and as I said earlier, nothing is wasted. Every detail is something, leads to something. I wondered if they were setting something up as a plot point to reveal why he hated Zero so much. Did you...
Bizarre.
Did you see the reveal coming? Because I very much did. Because Zero immediately is like, did those shoes have a red mark on them or whatever? You immediately figured out, as I did, that Zero was responsible for stealing the shoes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, it's very overt that you didn't steal the shoes. Like, it's...
It's even more obvious then. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, fair.
That's very clear. I think the reveal that he's a descendant is a bit, until the moment it's very overtly revealed in the film, is less, you can see that coming less. I didn't see her becoming the kissing Kate. I thought that was that was a bit of a surprise. So
both of those I did pick up on for two different reasons. One was because both were played by Patricia Arquette. we saw that I was like, huh. Patricia Arquette in the really early part of the movie when she's got the hat on and robs Even Stevens' great granddad or whatever, great granddad. When you see that scene, I was like, oh, Patricia Arquette. So when she shows up later and she's the sweet school teacher, I'm like, oh, we're doing that. So that one I figured out. And obviously with Zero, the connection to Madame Zeroni didn't escape me.
Yes.
The name's not subtle. I could totally see someone on a more casual viewing, though, not necessarily spotting those two. There are things I didn't spot in this viewing that I'm sure, another person would have spotted on their first viewing. It's a very dense movie, plot-wise, and there are details you're going to pick up and details you're not, and, that's just is what it is. When you write a movie as densely as this. A little note as well I loved, by the way. I won't talk about this, but the absolute fucking bananas bad luck of the opening of the movie is such a great way to establish the curse. So even Steven finds the shoes. The police pull him up and they're like, we think you stole the shoes. And he's like, I didn't. And then they're like, all right, well, we take him back home. They open up the door to his house. The house is full of shoes. And then they go into his bedroom. And it's a poster of the guy that they stole the shoes from. And it's like, Jesus, it's circumstantial evidence, but it's quite strong circumstantial evidence. What are the odds that this boy would be accused of stealing shoes with a house full of shoes and a poster of the guy he stole them from? That is some bad luck.
It doesn't look good for him. Yeah. It doesn't. It does not look good for Stanley.
Nah, that kid did that crime.
I love the granddad's reaction as well, though, of like, how do you know that's not my bed? What I really wanted, and I thought it was going to happen, I thought the camera was going to pan to his bed, and it was going to be just like the most old man dressed like side of a room you've ever seen in your life. Like that was my wish for that. That was the gag I wanted. Which,
interestingly, that character not in the book.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to. Either I'm going to have to read it or you're going to have to read it, because I'd love to know how they tell those flashbacks and narratives, and whether they just just put them in as flashbacks.
They must just
obviously,
be, like, it must just be there's a chapter that's just like the past. Yeah, I think so. That'd be my guess.
Must suggest that.
The reason the granddad exists, in my opinion, and I don't know, obviously, but looking at the way the movie is structured, he exists to help explain to the audience, the curse. Because presumably in the book, we get the curse explained in... I don't know from what perspective the book is told, whether it's like Stanley's or whatever, but presumably the book just tells you about the curse. It's not mentioned necessarily in dialogue, because why would these characters who live with the curse fully explain what it is? A family that have been living with this mythical curse for years are not going to suddenly be like, let's explain the curse around the dinner table. But having the granddad tell the story to even Stephen feels like a really good way to sort of explore it without like doing it in a clunkier way. So I think that character literally exists as an expo dump for something that the book was able to cheat its way into because of its format. Yeah,
the fact that finding out that character is there, and I completely agree with your theory as to why the character exists. So finding out that character is there and most likely exists for that purpose just makes me go, well, in the book it must just be flashbacks then.
That's my assumption. I think I'm probably going to read the book though. I am interested in seeing how it plays out, and I think it's a really short book. I think it's a really short book, Chris. It's making me want to change my pick for next week. Actually, I've had a thought about something. Do we make it a little? Let me see. I'm gonna do some googling. I'm gonna check something. All right, let me see if I've got any other notes as well. CGI lizards are fucking dreadful is the note I've got highlighted here. So let me just see if there's anything else. The pacing towards the sort of middle of the movie isn't great either. I will say it's not a massive problem, but I will say there's a point when it starts to slog slightly, where it's like, yeah, I reckon there's maybe 10, 15 minutes we could probably trim from the pacing of the sort of somewhere around the end of towards the end of the second act, early third act. There's definitely some fat to be trimmed, in my opinion. But most of the movie is very tightly written, so that's a minor problem. That is us just leaving. We're only just leaving Nitpick Corner. And I'm mentioning that as we go. Did I write anything else? I don't think I wrote any other interesting notes that we haven't already discussed. No, I don't think I've written anything we haven't covered. No, and this has been an interesting review because this has been a very broad review. Like, we haven't talked too much about too many specific scenes or moments, like the catharsis of when Zero clonks that guy on the head with a shovel, or Stanley's amazing attempt to escape in the van, which just goes straight into a hole, which of course it did.
So good. That really took me by surprise. Took me by surprise. I really loved that because I was like, oh, that's how they're going to explain how he can get to him so quickly and how he survived. That makes sense. Nope. That was
it's
great.
Pretty fucking brilliant. Look, so we can sit here and do. Oh man, okay. I might be about to change my movie choice. That's an interesting scenario.
Intriguing.
Oh, I think I'm gonna do it. Wait, let me look. What was? Chris, I think I'm changing my movie choice.
Ooh, that's exciting. Are you going to... But would you reveal what it was going to be?
No, because I might still do it this series.
Okay.
So I think... Okay, yeah, I think I'm changing my movie. I wasn't expecting to do that, but that's what's happened. All right, we'll come back to it. But,
yeah.
So... Where was I? Yeah, so I don't have any other notes. I just think give this a go. I don't think it's perfect. I do think there's a number of people who are going to watch this movie and just not connect to it at all and be as baffled as I am because they're going to understand that on the surface, the movie's solid in so many ways. On paper, everything about it works. So you'll be sitting there scratching your head about why it's not quite connecting with you, and maybe it's the character thing, maybe it's different for you, maybe you're not connecting to it because you're not as interested in this sort of tone because it's so unusual and offbeat. Maybe it's just not a film for you. Maybe you wish the jokes were a bit more obvious, sort of, because the movie isn't a really funny movie. It's just sort of weird funny where you're sort of amused by the circumstances rather than laughing at the jokes. There's only a couple of laugh out loud moments in the whole movie, I think, but it's still kind of amusing throughout. So I could see somebody not liking it for other reasons. But I think it's worth checking out because I feel like if this will click for you, it'll be a masterpiece for you. And I feel like even if it doesn't, there's still enough worthy material here to try it. So yeah, should we Do you have any wrap-up thoughts, Chris, before I move into the triv?
No, I completely agree, and I'm so glad that you said Shawshank Redemption for kids before I did, because I was like, am I going nuts? Am I giving this film too much there?
But I gotta say, funny thing about that, Chris, is I don't even think it's because of the prison thing. I literally don't think it's got anything to do with the prison thing. No, it's not at all.
No, I didn't even. Wasn't even thinking of that when I thought of that comparison. I was thinking of tone. I was thinking of approach. I was thinking of pacing. I was thinking of action scenes, quote unquote. Like, I absolutely, completely agree. And it's not at all the prison thing. Right, in that case, Dan, let's triv it up.
I'm gonna give you some trivia. I went a bit slow and steady with that one. I was like, I'm gonna land this plane, but with confidence. All right, let's. I thought
it was quite sultry.
Oh, very good. Not what I was aiming for, but I'll take it. Accidental sultriness is always the best kind of sultriness. Look, there's not a huge amount of triv. Actually, you know what I need to do, Chris? I'm going to do this while describing it on thing. I'm going to text Nadia that it's time to... she's going to prepare some food. I reckon she can safely start cooking some food.
Oh, yeah, I think so, for sure.
And it's going to be a nice simple meal this evening, which means less dishes for Dan. Who's the winner?
Dan is.
If you like. Okay, right. Okay. So, first of all, let's just touch on the sad bit of news. The actor that played Trout Walker, the sort of villain from the Old Westy segment of this movie, Scott Plank, sadly died post the movie being filmed. So the movie is dedicated to him. That's very sad. I think he's great in the movie. Being a truly detestable villain is not easy, and a combination of good writing and his performance made that character jump to life. I'm not very familiar with his work otherwise, but he did a great job here. I'm sad he died. That's no fun. So yeah.
Sorry to hear, and lovely that they dedicated the movie to him.
Yes. Absolutely. So yeah, good stuff. So to get on to the normal triv stuff, Walden Media was the production company behind this film. They made a deal with Disney to distribute it. It's unclear exactly when they acquired the rights and how the deal with Disney worked. Disney just seemed to own the movie now, it seems. I don't know, man. It's complicated. This movie's got like 5 production companies with hands in this, in it. Like I was trying to figure out who made the movie, and it's like Walt Disney Pictures, okay. Walden Media, okay. Phoenix Pictures, okay. Chicago Specific Entertainment, okay. Buena Vista Pictures. I'm like, okay, I give up. I don't know who the fuck did what, but 10 companies brought you this movie.
Jesus.
I know.
Okay.
I think so. Buena Vista is one of Disney's distribution arms for things that they didn't want to put the classic Disney logo in. So if they made a movie that they were worried would be too adult for the Disney brand, they would put it under Buena Vista. So I think that's why Buena Vista are listed as the distributor. But like Phoenix Pictures, Chicago Pacific Entertainment, Walden Media, fuck knows. I think Walden Media were the main company behind producing this movie, but Christ knows what else everyone was doing. No idea. Maybe just putting money into it? I have no idea. I don't know. It's 5 producers listed. Maybe one of those is each from a different studio. Not sure. Anyway. So, so it's a little hard to track how this movie came into being. But once it was decided they were making the movie and the rights had been acquired to the book, a little known writer called Richard Kelly was hired to write the screenplay, Chris. Now, if you're thinking, what? Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly? Yes,
I was going to say, do you mean the guy who did Donnie Darko?
I do mean that, Chris. And his draft, I'm going to say politely, was not quite in line with the original book. He wrote a dark, violent, post-apocalyptic adaptation with sci-fi elements. Stanley's last name was changed to Kramer, and he was sent to Camp Green Lake because he mercy killed his own little sister to end her suffering from radiation sickness.
Jesus.
Oh, I'm not done. Armpit, Squid, and X-Ray all died throughout the course of the film. The backstory of kissing Kate Barlow and Sam was removed entirely. Zero is implied to be present at the camp because they committed murder. Pendansky sneaks the boys out at night and takes them to a truck stop bar and buys them prostitutes.
What the?
But I'm not done. Even weirder, they then reveal he's a secret undercover agent for the government. So why did he take the kids out to get them prostitutes? Not sure. Unclear. It's then revealed at the end that the conspiracy of the camp is not that they're digging for buried treasure, like in the book, but for old nuclear warheads. Now, there's also, I've seen text online that says that they were looking for a hammer that can fire electric bullets. But I couldn't find confirmation of that. And the draft of the script I found implied warheads, but I didn't read the full thing. I just skimmed. So this script is out there if you wish to read it. Sounds fucking bananas. Now, if you're thinking, that's insane, how did this even happen? The production team felt the same way, if I'm being completely honest. Because they thought he was insane, and it won't shock you to learn that he was removed immediately from the film. Now, Richard Kelly has talked about this since and just said he was a bit naive. Maybe that naive meaning like he thought he could get away with like changing it a lot and doing his own thing. Some of the elements of his original script for this did find their way into the movie Southland Tales, which I think is a weirdly sort of underrated movie. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I think it's a really fun, off-kilter, weird little movie. And I'm curious one day we'll do it on here because I haven't seen it since it came out. But I'll be curious to cover.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know, Chris. What do you think? Should we have gotten the insane, dark Richard Kelly version of this movie? Should that exist?
No, and I don't even know why that would be called Holes. Like, I mean, presumably the digging.
But they still dug holes,
of
Chris.
the
They were just looking
remains
for nuclear
the same,
warheads.
But that is madness. Yeah, no, they made the right call to not go down that route.
So I wonder, and I'm purely speculating here, right? So this is, no one anywhere seems to have said this, so you can, disregard this if you feel. But it would not surprise me, Chris, to discover that the reason they were then like, let's get in the author, was a slight overcorrection on the grounds that the last writer they hired wrote a different movie. And I wonder if they were so taken aback by how wildly different Kelly's draft was that they just thought, you know what, the safest thing to do here is get in the author. And it might not be that, because I think any time you can get the original author in to work on a script like this, it's a good thing. I'm glad that they tried to bring in Michael Crichton on the Jurassic Park films. It's a good idea to have the original author guiding, even if not writing a script like this. But when they brought on Andrew Davis, the director, who had previously been known for action films, he'd done like Under Siege and Collateral Damage and The Fugitive, although The Fugitive is kind of only a half action film. That's another movie we'll cover on here at some point, I think. Fugitive's a great movie. He took on this project because he thought it would be very different from the action films he was becoming known for. And I think this was an attempt to step away from a genre so he didn't get sort of labeled like the action guy. Like, that's his thing. He wanted to sort of show some versatility. And apparently he was absolutely key in convincing Louis Sahar, the writer of the book, to adapt the film into the screenplay. And they actually worked on the script together. Well, at least the story together. The story goes that they sat in a room, they put every scene that would tell this story on flashcards, like 3x5 note cards. I've seen it written that it wasn't like the scenes by name, but actually like storyboards. But I feel like they just wrote the scenes, because you wouldn't storyboard one frame from each scene. That doesn't really... That's just not how you storyboard. You storyboard the whole scene, the angle, the reverse angle, all that stuff. I don't know. Maybe they did draw pictures. I'm not sure. But anyway, they put the story, laid it out on cards, and apparently Andrew Davis, the director, was like, this scene should be 3 minutes. This scene should be 2 minutes. This scene needs to be 5 minutes, and just gave him like direct instructions on how long to make each segment. And then Sahar went off and wrote the screenplay with that as a guide. I don't think it was particularly strict, but he 2 pages for this scene, 1 page for the scene. Obviously, keeping in mind, for those who don't know, actually, I should clarify, in screenwriting, generally speaking, the format of a screenplay, on average, works out at 1 page per minute. Now, that's not a perfect analogy. You couldn't take a random page from a screenplay and then check it against the movie and see that it takes a minute, but it's across 100 pages. it roughly works out as 1 page per minute. So if you want to write an hour and a half, movie, you do 90 pages. You want to write 2-hour movie, you're writing, whatever that accounts to. My brain is dying. 120 pages. So that's usually the rule of thumb. So I'm wondering if he did just go back and go like, I'll roughly do 2 or 3 pages for the scene, 1 page for the scene. But that's how they wrote it, apparently. One thing that... Oh, and I've just remembered there's another big change from the book that I didn't mention. I forgot about this. In the book...
Just before you move on, I think that approach to the writing helps with that structure and why the flashbacks, that shows how methodical that was and to the movie's benefit.
I hadn't even thought about that, and that's right, because I did wonder a lot when I watched the movie how much of the structure was pulled together in editing and how much of it was on the page. And you're right, that very much actually implies that the movie's very tight structure actually might originate more from the script and the editing. Not to say the editing is bad, by the way, because I do think this movie is well edited. I think the movie is better edited than it is shot, if I'm being honest with you. No disrespect to Andrew Davis, who shot the movie and was a cinematographer prior to being a director. I think the actual way the movie is shot is quite flat, a bit uninspired. He doesn't choose like interesting angles or do anything particularly like. I'm not trying to say it's not badly shot. It's just not exceptionally shot. Does that make sense? It's like very serviceably shot. So yeah, but yeah, no, I agree with you. So that actually does imply that the story really came together in the writing more than the editing. But it is well edited, I think. Okay. Let's see. So change of story, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Chris. In the book, Stanley is described as obese and sheds considerable weight across the story. Now, the producers and Andrew Davis decided not to do that because, well, Andrew Davis has said it would be hard to depict convincingly, which is a much better way to put it, because one of the producers said they didn't think they could find a kid tough enough to legitimately lose the weight.
Jeez.
There's an interview with a producer I saw a clip of. I don't know who. I've never seen the lady before in my life, but she's, I guess, one of the people who worked on the movie. I think she could have phrased that a little bit kinder. I think a little bit more carefully. But I think it's really interesting that they chose not to do that. And it feels like, from at least Andrew Davis's perspective, not for story reasons, but just because basically they'd have to do it with a fat suit, and they didn't think they could do a convincing fat suit.
I think it makes sense not to do it because I think you notice less because I did have the thought at one point in the movie, but it wasn't just about Stanley, it was about all of them. I was like, these boys should be physically changing, presumably, yes. And the one that's been there longest should be particularly muscular, like because of
or like emaciated and quite skeletal, maybe also is what you could go with, because maybe they're not eating enough, but they're doing a huge amount of exercise. Maybe that wouldn't actually lead to them being muscly so much as it would lead to them being, underweight. Yeah. So I think if you make a physical change on one of the characters, you have to do it with all of them, and then you get into all kinds of... You're just putting a pin and pointing a light at something that I think could cause difficulties for production, could take you out of the movie. So I actually think they made the right call for that reason, as opposed to any of the reasons that they've stated. Yeah. Well, I do also agree with the convincing fat suit thing. Like, they're hard to depict. Convincingly. That is also technically true. It would be hard to do that convincingly, but I agree with you. It does raise more problems than it solves. If everyone is just the way, and it's the sort of like the logic of everyone's just normal, and we're not going to talk about how this would actually realistically affect their weight. Everyone's just at their normal weight that we cast them at, and that is that, and it is fine. So yeah, I agree with you. Raises way less questions that way. So in terms of casting for Stanley, they apparently were looking for someone with a young Tom Hanks energy. Now, there are only 2 other names I could find of people that were, in line for this role before it went to Shia LaBeouf, and they were offered it, not just like considered, which I always hate that term because it often just means. I mean, what's considered? I sit down and go, I'm making a movie. Oh, well, wouldn't it be great if Ian McKellen was in this movie? Oh, that's considered. Like, that doesn't always mean much. You know, I prefer to talk about when people really were, like, you know, auditioning, being offered roles. But yeah, the two names, really interesting. Frankie Muniz was the first name. And he turned it down because he'd made a commitment to agent Cody Banks. Which, you know, I don't know. Fine choice, I guess.
Hey, look, from a business point of view, you'd look at it and go, Agent Cody Banks might have the opportunity to become a franchise and become, you know, a multi-year deal. It may have even been a multi-year deal, whereas this, you know, is just, you know, the book adaptation, so it's just going to be the one film. Maybe there's a business decision there. Yeah,
I agree. There's probably more scope for potential sequels in Agent Cody Banks. In fact, didn't that did get a sequel, right? They did do a Agent Cody Banks 2. Let's have a look. Yeah, Agent Cody Banks 2, Destination London. Oh, I didn't know its full name. That's very good. Frankie Muniz did come back, but Hilary Duff didn't? No.
Yeah, it looks like it.
No Hilary Duff. But they did gain Anthony Anderson, and I think that man's very funny. So, you know, we've exchanged Hilary Duff for Anthony Anderson. I think that's as good a trade as you're going to make.
And Hannah from S Club 7.
You're fucking kidding. Because it's set in London. They got a British actress. Of course they did.
She is on the poster, so I assume.
Yeah, she's got literally. Yeah, you're 100% right. That's hilarious. She's the sort of Bond girl that's in that one movie and then presumably would have vanished. She's the you know, it's a spy movie, right?
Yeah.
So presumably then Hilary Duff was that role in the previous movie, because I assume at that point she was around that age bracket to be the love interest for Frankie Muniz.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about the Agent Cody Banks law.
Well, now I'm changing my movie for the third time. No, I'm kidding. Amazing. Anyway, Hannah was one of my favourites from S Club 7 back in the day.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, yeah, she was great.
Yeah. Anyway, if anyone doesn't know, by the way, I should clarify, S Club 7 were a weird little sort of boy/girl band in the UK in the 90s that were very sort of manufactured, and they all also acted, and they sort of had a TV show. It was like a whole, like, it was a very insidious, like, branded, like, corporate thing, but kids didn't know the difference. And, you know, they had some bangers. There's some great songs.
Oh, man. Bring It All Back is always my go-to. I think most people would choose Reach, but I think Bring It All Back is an absolute tune.
Yeah, I had that first album somewhere back in the day. I liked it well enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see. Okay, yeah, so Frankie Muniz turned down the role because he wanted to do Agent Cody Banks. Don't blame him. That makes perfect sense. They also there's a story here that they offered the role to Alex D. Linz of Home Alone 3 fame. So for anyone who doesn't know, he was the very unfortunate child that got the role of replacing Macaulay Culkin as the lead in Home Alone. And he's great in that movie, to my memory. But, and it's a big but, he was never going to be received well, was he? Because he was following, you know, one of the most beloved young actors at the time. So yeah, that was never going to go down well. But I think, to my memory, he did a great job in that movie. And there you go. I'll change the movie for the fourth time. We're going to do Home Alone 3 next week.
You and I both very much share a sweet spot for Home Alone 3.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no, I remember really enjoying it. I'm a bit fearful of rewatching that because, you know, it might turn out to be absolutely terrible, and then I'll have to reevaluate that thought. Shia LaBeouf obviously got the role eventually, and he kind of Michael J. Foxed this movie because he was simultaneously working with Disney on Even Stevens. And he would go to the filming of this film after a day of taping Even Stevens. So he was a busy man at the time, which is what Michael J. Fox did with Back to the Future and Family Ties. So yeah, makes the performance even more impressive, really, because he must have been exhausted.
I was going to say, but how old was he? Like, that's mad.
Young, very young. No, to be fair, at this point he was probably. Oh, when's this? 2003.
So he was born in 86, according to Wikipedia. So let's say it filmed in 2002, minus 1986, making him 16. Still rough, isn't it?
Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Speaking of Shia LaBeouf, we should address the elephant in the room. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf, complicated figure. Horrendous, traumatic childhood, followed up by a lot of very horrible choices and some pretty despicable behaviors. It's what do you say about him in that case? I mean, there is an irony to Shia LaBeouf's history, because I don't know if you're aware of this, Chris, but he was first arrested, one of many arrests, at age 9 for stealing Nike sneakers from a store in California in 96.
Jeez.
Now, that was his first arrest. People may have noticed that choice of language, because he was subsequently then arrested in... So that was 96. He was also arrested in 98, 07, 08, 11, 14, 15, 17, 20, and literally a month ago arrested again for, what was it, assault battery again in 2026. So not a nice man. It's complicated, isn't it? But very good.
Yeah,
I remember thinking, I looked at his Wikipedia page, and it was like, it was like the title of the cat. In fact, I'm just going to pull it up, because the title of the section which talks about it was like legal troubles. I was like, that's putting it mildly.
No.
Legal issues.
No, it's madder than that though. That's a subsection. It's controversies, and then it's got the following subsections: plagiarism accusations, legal issues, abuse allegations, casting dispute for Don't Worry Darlings.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's got its own fucking
Yeah, well, that was
there we go.
That was a big story, and everyone has a different story on what happened there with him leaving. He says it was because he said, well, he claims he left that movie because of a scheduling conflict, and the story elsewhere is that he was a fucking nightmare and they got rid of him. So,
right, okay.
Apparently Florence Pugh felt uncomfortable with him on set. And in the, well, maybe not on set. I don't know if they'd gone as far as filming, but in cast readings and meetings beforehand. So it's in his interest for us to believe it was a scheduling issue rather than the reality. But, he was literally arrested a few weeks ago for assault or something. So, I don't know, complicated. Anyway, well, let's not worry too much about that. He is, unfortunately, pretty good in this movie. So it's not like I can be like, he's
great,
he's potentially a piece of shit and a bad actor. No, he's good in this movie. I was trying to remember how I felt about his performance in Indiana Jones, because that's the only other time we've really dealt with Shia LaBeouf, I think. And I don't remember. We talked about the character a lot. I don't recall us talking too much about his performance, but I suspect we were like, yeah, he's fine. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was. I think maybe the view was there's bigger problems with that movie, including the character, not necessarily the performance.
Agreed. Well, the problem is, I'm not going to reopen that can of worms. But the problem with that is obviously the character, in theory, is fine. It's in execution. The idea of Indiana Jones having a son is fine. It's just the way they did it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's not reevaluate that one. Sigourney Weaver wanted to be in this movie because Holes is her daughter's favourite book, so she saw the opportunity to be in the adaptation of it, and didn't want to, had no reason not to go for that. Now, Nathan Davis, the actor that plays Stanley's grandfather, is the director, Andrew Davis's dad. So he cast his dad to play Stanley's granddad. So that's fun.
Cool.
It's very fun. They shot it in California in 2022. Sorry, not 2022. Sorry, 2002. They used 9 bearded dragons on set for the lizards, and they used non-toxic children's finger paint to make them look bright in color. So yeah, that was fun. The yellow spotted lizards mentioned in the movie do not exist. There are only 2 venomous lizards in North America, and both of them live in the southwest in northern Mexico, so nowhere near where this movie exists. The onions we see Stanley and Zero eating towards the end of the movie, if you were wondering, Chris, how they did that, they were actually just apples wrapped in an edible casing that looked like an onion.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's not so much the idea of someone eating a raw onion, is it? It's the fact that they don't peel them or make any attempt to peel them first.
They just pull them out of the ground and have a chomp. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
The splooshy drink that they drink, according to the DVD commentary, is apple juice mixed with molasses, which, can I just say, sounds fucking gross. But there you go. That's just me.
It does sound gross.
Yeah. Two things I do not think go together. A sticky thing like molasses with a liquid like apple juice. No, thank you. The more the texture is upsetting to me than the idea of the taste. Because I don't think adding sweetness to apple juice is probably that bad. But that texture sounds grim to me. But anyway, whatever. According to the author himself, during the filming of the movie, they discovered it would be impossible to actually dig a 5-foot wide hole with a 5-foot shovel, because there wouldn't be enough room to swing the shovel to get the dirt out. So, imagine writing the book.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, imagine getting the book. Writing that book with that as your whole thing, and then getting onto a film set of your movie, of an adaptation of your book, and realizing the entire conceit doesn't work.
Such a shame, because it's such a clever way of making sure the holes are consistent, I guess. It's very logical, but it's also very logical why it wouldn't work.
So at the end of the film, it's revealed that Mr. Sir's real name is Marion Civilio, and that he's a former criminal who has violated his parole by carrying a firearm. None of that's in the book. The film's screenplay just added a special extra ending for him. But fans of the series, because the film was written by the author, fans of the series have sort of gone, that's canon, because of where it came from. So they've kind of canonized that detail. Makes sense. Nothing wrong with that. That detail just doesn't happen to get mentioned in the book. But again, the ending in the book is that they continue to run the little correctional facility. So it makes sense you wouldn't reveal that in the book. Dule Hill played Sam, famously in the TV show Psych, which ran for 6,000 episodes. And in the episode 65 Million Years Off, they were seeing holes that paleontologists dug. Another character, the guy that he always works with, in that says, "This is like that movie with Sigourney Weaver," and eventually mentions Shia LaBeouf and John Voight. He's trying to remember what the movie's called. Dule Hill's character keeps trying to guess what the movie is, but no one ever guesses holes.
That's great.
That's a funny bit. Good. That's a funny bit. I need to watch that scene. I think someone put it on YouTube. I didn't actually watch it. I just know it exists. But I should watch that scene. It sounds funny. This film is actually what inspired Spielberg to cast Shia LaBeouf in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Thought he was suitable for it from this movie. I think that's fair. Makes sense. He's good in this movie. Like I said, problematic.
Yeah, he's very good. Yeah.
So, despite some familiar faces in the cast, Sigourney Weaver is obviously the only internationally known star in the movie. She's the only household name in the movie, and this is why her name appears first in everything relating to this movie, despite not appearing in the movie for 45 minutes. She's on the poster. Her name's really up front and center. She's in the, from what I'm told, she's in the trailer. Her name comes up first. Even in this movie, her credit is quite early in the credits. Yeah, so she's given top billing despite her late appearance in the movie. She's in it quite a bit once she appears, though. It's not like it's a cameo, so it makes sense to me.
No, I think I think I understand it. She's a huge name. I think really Shia LaBeouf at the very least should be credited before her, but I get it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and like I said, she's a pretty significant character. I didn't feel shortchanged on Sigourney Weaver, so.
No, and they also do it. They also, to be fair, they do it in because there's a bunch of names, isn't there? And then it's introducing Shia LaBeouf.
Right. Yeah, so, he gets a special thing. So on a modest $20 million budget, Chris, the film turned a worldwide box office of $71 million. So that is profit, but not a big smash hit. They made their money back and then some. But it would explain why they never adapted the sequel book which was written after this movie came out, funnily enough. They never adapted it because this was a tidy earner, but not maybe a massive success.
I didn't know there was a sequel book, so fair. Okay.
Yeah, I think it follows like X-Ray and one of the other kids after they get out of the correctional facility.
Oh, okay.
I think it's got a different name. It's not called Holes 2. It's called like something different. So I don't know if it's very obviously a sequel. Now, an interesting thing about this that I noted, right? I was looking up the box office. It's like $71 million, fine. $20 million budget. Yeah, tidy profit. I should clarify. When a movie is, if anyone's going, what do you mean, Dan? There's $50 million of profit there. Whenever a movie, especially in the old days, whenever a movie was released, you'd sort of take the production budget and double it to account for marketing. Because usually whatever they spent on the movie, they would then spend twice, they'd spend that budget again to market it. So they probably spent a total of $40 million making and marketing the movie. Then they've got to split some of that with the theatre chains. So suddenly $71 million return is not looking like a massive, because it's like, yeah, there's $30 million of profit there. How much of that went to the theatre chains? How much of that then went to the studio? They made money, but did they make enough money to justify, the amount of work that then went into it? I don't know. These things are complicated. But one thing I thought was interesting was of its 71 million budget, I noticed only 4 million of that came from international markets. $67 million of its $71 million was from the US market. 4 million came from elsewhere. Just 4 million. So let me tell you, they sent all those posters to my school for fucking nothing. Because apparently fucking no one outside of America watched that movie.
Yeah. I'd love to know how the book sales compare, but whether it correlates. But yeah, that's mad.
The book seems kind of popular in the UK, but I was surprised. Anyway, or maybe they saw the writing on the wall that it wasn't tracking very well in international markets, so they upped the marketing. I don't know. Anyway, it's time to do everyone's favorite segment. Oh, sorry, were you about to say something? Did I cut you off there?
No, I wasn't about to say anything. No.
Sorry, I thought I cut you off. Let's do it. Favorite segment. It's time for Cars Exist. It's a good one. That was a good one, Chris. Well done. So, Mr. Sir's...
Yeah, I was pleased with that. Mr.
Sir's truck. We all want to know. They crash it in the movie. Pretty iconic. It's a 1994 Ford F-350 Crew Cab XLT Dually. Obviously. Now... The warden drives a 1958 Chrysler Saratoga. Now, I was not familiar with this car, but I must admit, when I was watching the movie, I was like, that is a cool car. That's a really cool car. Now, one thing I need to look at, because the way this is written, as I discovered it, was the car does not have a gear shift stick to change gears. And instead, it had push buttons to change from drive, reverse, park, and etc. My question about that is, are they saying this particular specific one had that, or that is just how that car worked? Because that, for a car from the 50s, that's fucking mad. Let me see if it's just that car in general, or if it was this particular model. Gear selector. Oh yeah, it was buttons. That's bananas. No gear stick. Wow. You can see a picture of the seats in it, Chris, and it's just one long bench because there's no gear stick between the two chairs.
That's crazy.
In the 50s? That's nuts. Gear changing through buttons. Huh. Well, there you go. Learn something new every day. So yeah, there you go. That's Cars Exist.
And here's the thing, not all of it's going to be useful. So,
No. All right, let's do this part quick because we'll talk about this a bit more next week. But I've changed the film I'm choosing. Because I like this, talking of adapting a short sort of children's book into a reasonably competent movie. My issues with this movie aside, it was ultimately a positive review, so it worked. There's another movie that Nadia and I have talked about recently that I've had on my mind that is in the same boat from a few years earlier. It's Babe. Which is also adapted from a short ish book, like a 200-page book, to great success. So I'm thinking we cover Babe.
That film, we'll talk more about it next week, like you say. But that film was massive.
Yeah, it was huge.
Absolutely massive. That film was, I don't know. I'm not talking like box office numbers, but just awareness of it, chatter about it, it coming out on video.
I remember that it coming out on video as well. Deal. You and I are at a specific age where when it came out on video, it was a big deal. And like trying to rent it, I remember we had to wait 2 weeks because every time we went to rent it, because we usually rented one movie every weekend. And we went on the Friday, and it was just they didn't have any copies left. And we went the next Friday, it was the same. It was like 3 weeks until we saw it. So yeah, we're gonna do Babe. And that sets us up for when we do the next sequel season. We can add Babe, Pig in the City to the wheel.
Well, that's if I don't choose it right away, my friend.
You might. It's always a threat. But yeah, so we're gonna do that next week. But I'm gonna do the smart thing and just like say, well, we've covered it. Let's not litigate the movie now. We'll talk about it when we talk about it next week, but that's what we're going to do. So come back in a week's time for Babe. Or if you're on our Patreon, you can probably listen to it right now. If you've not yet joined the Patreon, you're listening to this on like iTunes or wherever, head over to the Patreon. Patreon.com/nothingbutstatic. You can, for as little as $1 a month, have access to episodes of this podcast 1 week ahead of their normal release. So if you're excited about that, you can find out and listen to it right now. Otherwise, support us in all the usual ways. You can like and review the podcast on any platform in which you find it. That tells the algorithm you enjoyed it. You can, of course, tell a friend. You got a friend who's a big fan of Holes and think that this tepid recommendation will be of interest to them? Pass it along. Tell a friend. Or you can just keep listening, which is also a very good thing that helps us out. But with all that in mind, if you've got any thoughts, mail at nothingButStatic.co.uk will get to us. So that is everything for this week. I'm going to hand over to Chris because he ends this bad boy.
My name's Chris Billingham.
My name's Dan Doolan.
And this review has been rewound.